Homework 2, solving linear equations. There are three types of linear equations. The conditional equation is true for some value. That means you have an x equals 5. Okay. Then you have an identity. Both these, the identity and contradictions, your x's disappear, but your answers are different because here any value for x will work, which is all real numbers, and you'll end up with numbers that something that's equal, like 2 the left equals the right, which is 2 equals 2, or -3 equals -3. And some of you, I teach to move your x's first, but if you move your numbers first, sometimes you'll end up with something that looks like 2x equals 2x. Okay, where the left equals the right, those are all real numbers. It's known as identity. And then you got a contradiction for your equation where the equation is false. These are true. In this case, where it's no solution, your answer will be something like -2 equals 5. Okay, those are not equal, and so on. We'll see these in this examples. Okay. So right here we're going to solve. We're only using x's, not quadratics, which are x squares, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is distribute. I'm going to take this -3 and I'm going to bring down the 2x. I'm going to say -3 times 2x is -6x. -3 times a +2 gives us -6 equals, and I'm going to distribute the 5. So 5 times 4x is 20x. And 5 times 3 is 15. Now, before I start moving things, I'm going to simplify. I'm going to go ahead and combine my like terms there, and I get a -4x minus 6 is equal to 20x plus 15. Okay, now here's where different people teach this differently. It doesn't really matter what you do as long as you end up at the same, you do your steps, show your work. Now I realize that you are doing all your problems on a computer, but you need to be able to write all your steps out because your tests will be on paper. But the way I do this is I teach getting all my variables over here to the left. Some people try to avoid negatives. That's fine. I'm just not afraid of negatives because if you can't work with negatives, you're going to have a hard time in this class anyway. So to get rid of 20x here, I'm going to subtract 20x. Pretend like this equal sign is a wall. That equal sign doesn't move, okay? So what you do to one side, you have to do the other. So I'm going to subtract 20x here. And what this does is it gets rid of it over there. So this side gives us -24x minus 6 equals 15. Now it looks like a regular two-step equation, okay? So my variables are on my left, so my constants need to be on the right. It can be, you can have your variables here and your constants here. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to take this -6x over to that side because I need to isolate this -24. To get rid of a -6x, I add 6. To get rid of a -6, I add 6. So that cancels each other out. Over here, I get -24x equals 21. This is -24 times x. So I'm going to divide both sides by a -24 because I want this to give us a positive x, because that cancels to give us 1. Right here, don't worry about don't worry that you're going to have a fractional answer. Fractions are fine. I'd rather see fractions than I would decimals because sometimes the decimals are irrational and they never repeat, they never end, so you end up rounding, and we need exact answers. Now the only thing wrong with this is it can be reduced. 3 goes into -21 7 times, 3 goes into 24 8 times. So our answer is x equals-7/8. Now you can check your answers. Now I'm going to be teaching from the TI-84, okay? And I am pretty big on teaching this store button, because you can check your answers in every single equation that we work. You need to get in the habit of checking your answers. Now sometimes we will in class and sometimes we won't, but you need to know how to do this because this is something that we test for on the final. So we need to make sure our answer is right. I'm going to type in -7 divided by 8. Now you can use your fraction key under this F1 if you want, that's fine, okay? But I'm going to hit store and I'm going to store it under my X value, okay? And I hit enter. Now, it changes it to a decimal. See, so in this particular case, the fraction or the decimal would have been fine for your answer. It's just if you end up with something that looks like, I don't know, let's say a pi answer, okay? See how that's irrational? That you can't use, okay? You can't just round. So that's why a fraction, I think 22 divided by 7, okay, that's close enough. You wouldn't want to change it to a decimal, you'd want to leave it here. Okay, so let's go back to this here. Okay, I put in -7 divided by 8, store, my store is my XTO button, X, okay. Now, I'm going to plug in my left-hand side, 2x minus 3, beginning parentheses, 2x plus 2, ending parentheses. And on the left side, when you plug that in, it gives us this here, okay? Now I'm going to plug in the right side, 5, beginning parentheses, 4x plus 3, ending parentheses. Now, the left equaled the right, so I know this answer checked out. So before I even turned in my test, I would know that's right. Okay, now we've got decimals, still same way. I'm just going to bring down this left side. I'm going to distribute that. When you do, and again, I know what the answer is. I know it's going to be 1, but you still can do that part on your calculator. I just try not to use my calculator until I have to, but it's okay. This gives us x minus, and again, if you need to do this on your calculator, because again, I can do things in my head, but again, double check your answers even, and I get 1.6. Okay, so again, here's that wall. I just like, well, it's not that I like, it's just I've seen, I'm the one that grades tests, and people who will do this have less of a chance of getting them wrong when they move all their x's to the left. Again, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to subtract x. There's really a 1 in front of it. We just don't write it. Now you use your calculator on this if you have to. 0.6 minus 1, okay? And you get negative 0.4x minus 1.3 equals negative 1.6. Now I'm going to take my constant to the other side to isolate my variable. So I'm going to add 1.3. And again, you're going to get a negative 0.3 over here on this right-hand side. But you can, again, use your calculator when you have to. I'm not saying, I just try not to just because I don't like it takes more time. But if I was taking a test, I would definitely make sure I was doing that, okay? So there was a plus. That canceled each other out. So now this is negative 0.4 times x, so I'm going to divide by negative 0.4. And x is going to give us a positive 3/4. But if you do this on your calculator, you have negative 0.3 already there, so I'm just going to divide by a negative 0.4. You'll end up with 0.75. That is perfectly fine because 3/4 and 0.75 are equal, so either of these answers are fine. If you changed it to a fraction, excuse me, sorry about that. and I just did that by hitting math, I get 3/4. So either answer is fine. Again, if you took this store, again by hitting your store button, X, it just takes my answer ahead of time and change it and stores it under X. Plug in 0.6 X minus 1.3. That gives me that. On the right side, 0.2 or 0.2, beginning parentheses, 5x minus 8. And it gives me the same thing, so it checks out. I know my answer is right. Now, none of us really love fractions, okay? And they make you have a calculator, and your calculator will do fractions for you. I don't really like using it, but I will show it because I know you guys will. Okay, we've got to combine these two. Now, I use these calculators forever. This calculator forever. Didn't even know we had a fraction key until about 2.5 years ago. Now, the way I do it, okay, I'll show you for those of you that have the newer calculators. If you hit alpha y equals, okay, there's your fraction, because what it does is alpha F1. Okay, your F1 is your fraction key. This is fraction. This is a mixed numeral. Fraction to mixed numeral to fraction, and fraction to decimal, decimal to fraction. Okay, you can find this under math right here as well. Okay, but I'm going to hit 1, and I'm going to hit 2/3 minus alpha F1, or y equals 1, 5/6. And it gives me negative 1/6. Now I could have done that faster, but again, I teach math, so I should be able to do it somewhat in my head. I just know that I had to have a common denominator between 3 and 6, which is 6. So this is 4/6. 4/6 minus 5/6 gives me negative 1/6. Okay. Now, here's that wall. I'm going to take this 1/2 to the other side. Okay. So I'm going to subtract that. Now again, if you change that to a decimal, let me see. See, I don't want to use that because you're going to round no matter what, and it's not going to give you the exact same answer, and then when you checked it, it probably would be wrong. So this is where you want to use your fraction is a better answer than a decimal. Okay, so right now I'm going to, that gives me that. This, you can do this on your calculator, but again, 1/2 is the same thing as negative 3/6. So on this side, I'm going to get negative 4/6, which reduces to negative 2/3 x minus 3 equals a negative 5. Now again, you can do this on your calculator. You can do, let me bring that 1 back up so I don't have to retype it. Negative 1/6, okay, minus alpha F1, 1/2, and you get negative 2/3. So I just did it without my calculator. All right, so now take that to the other side by adding 3. Negative 2/3 x equals a negative 2. Because negative 5 plus 3 gives us negative 2. Now, at this point, you've got to know this step. Okay, we will use this step the whole semester. Okay, you can do a couple different things. You can multiply by the reciprocal, or to get rid of a fraction, which is what I'm going to do right now because it's going to work for other things, is just multiply by your denominator. So I'm going to multiply this side by 3, and I'm going to multiply this side by 3. You can do anything to each side as long as you do what you do to one side, you do to the other. Right here, your 3's cancel, or you get negative 6/3, which still reduces to negative 2x. Here, this gives us a negative 6. Now divide by negative 2. and x is equal to a positive 3. Okay, that's one way. The second way, at this point, where you have negative 2/3 x equals negative 2, most of you probably learned to, which is it's not wrong, multiply by the reciprocal, which is negative 3 over 2. Okay, this gives us x. Over here, this gives us 6 over 2, which is 3. I do it like this. My 2's cancel, and then I get 3. So it didn't really matter. Now again, you can check your answer. It takes a little longer, but when it comes to your final, it's going to pay off. So I'm going to hit 3, store x, hit enter, and you're going to say alpha f1 or alpha y equals 1, 2/3 x minus alpha f1, 1, 5, 6 x minus 3. So on the left side, I ended up with negative 7/2. Over here, if you don't have the fraction, you don't have to use that, because I wouldn't on this side. I just do put my fractions in parentheses, 1/2 x minus 5. Okay, and I still get 3/2. See, that's the difference. If I use my fraction key, it gives me a fractional answer. If I don't, it gives me a decimal, because my calculator just thinks you're working with numbers. Like up here, I would have said 2/3, and it doesn't even have to. The only time that your fractions have to be in decimal, I'm sorry, in parentheses, is when you're dividing. But I would have just said 2/3 x minus, oops, not plus, minus 5 divided by 6 x minus 3, just because I'm faster at that. Okay, so my left still gave me the right. Okay, they get a little bit longer, but it doesn't take that long to do. It gets short really fast. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I have parentheses and I have brackets, I'm going to work them inside out. So I'm going to do this part here first. 2 brackets 4 plus 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times negative x is negative 2x minus 2x, ending brackets, equals, I can go ahead and do this. This gives us 28 minus 8x. Okay, before I start doing anything, I'm going to simplify inside these these brackets. Okay, so I have 2 times, I can simplify this to get 14. I can simplify that to get negative 4x equals 28 minus 8x. Okay, I'm going to distribute, and I get 28. Let's move this over. Okay. I'm going to get 28 minus 8x on the left, and I get 28 minus 8x on the right. Okay, now at this point, you might see that both the left and the right equal the same thing. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to take it a little bit further, just because when you're taking your test and you're working on your own, you may not see this. I always teach move x's first. So I am going to move that negative 8x over there by adding 8x. That cancels out, and so does that, to give us 0. So on the left we get 28, on the right we get 28. This, and even if you went further and subtracted 28, you'd get 0 equals 0. Okay, at this point, this is identity, but I'm not real big on whether you have to know that property. The answer to this, though, is all real numbers, or all real solutions. Let's see yeah, all real numbers. Okay, and I'm really lazy. I'm going to just do this. Okay. This means no matter what number you choose, you plug it into the left and then plug it into the right, it's going to make it a true statement. Okay, so these are all real numbers. You might see something that looks like this, like an R with a double line. Okay, that's my bad symbol for it. Now again, this is a true statement, so that's why that is. If you didn't see that and you took it a step further and subtracted 28, you'd get 0 on the left and you get 0 on the right, which is still a true statement. So it really didn't matter. So what that means is, by the way, you cannot use brackets. Your calculator has brackets, but that is for, right here, that's for programming, not for the math, okay? So what I'm going to do is, I don't care, pick a number, let's say -5, okay? I'm going to store it under X. I'm going to plug this in. I'm going to use a parentheses right here. So I have 2 beginning parentheses, 4 plus 2 beginning parentheses, 5 minus X ending parentheses, minus 2X. So I get 68 on the left side. When I do the right side, 4 parentheses, if I can't speak, 7 minus 2X ending parentheses, I still get 68. If I changed my X to, let's say, 0, store X. Now I'm going to bring this up. You can highlight, okay, but not everybody has those like that, and hit enter. But not everybody has a TI-84. Some have a TI-83 and it doesn't allow it. So you can bring it back up by hitting your second button and hit enter. It brings up this one. Hit second enter. It brings up this one. I need this one, so I'm going to hit second enter again. And notice the left gave me the right. I could put in 2/3. Okay. Store X. There's the left. Oops, crap. Oh my goodness, Kim. And there's the right. There they are. Sorry. Kept getting ahead of myself. Okay, and this next one. It looks exactly the same as up here, but they've changed this to a plus. So, again, I'm going to act like it's not the same. Going to distribute that there, and I get 4 plus 10 minus 2x minus 2x. Oops. I don't really have to use a bracket. I could have used parentheses once I got rid of these parentheses, but I'll just use a bracket. It just means grouping symbols. Over here gives me 28 plus 8x. Okay. Again, before I distribute, I'm going to simplify. This gives me 14 again, minus 4x in here, equals 28 plus 8x. Right here, I get 28 minus 8x when I distribute, equals 28 plus 8x. Okay, again, I'm going to move my letters first, and I always move them to the left because, again, I don't mind working with negatives. Of course, everybody likes positives better, but it shouldn't bother you at this level. So 28 minus 16x equals 28. Okay, now I've isolated my variables on the left. I'm going to move my constants to the right. That is one crooked line, sorry. So I'm going to subtract 28. That gives me 0. I get negative 16x equals 0. That is fine. 0 is okay in math. It's a number. Okay, so now I'm going to divide by negative 16. And 0 divided by a negative 16 gives me 0. We're going to check our answer. I already kind of have this in my calculator. 0 store x. Here's that one. Well, actually, let's go up and find the other one because I've screwed it all up. That's that one. Oops, I forgot to end my parentheses there. Gives me 28. Over here, I just need to change that to a plus sign, and it gives me 28. So the left check equals the right, it checked out. Okay, this last one, I'm sure it's going to be no solution because we haven't had it. So we have distribute negative 3x. Negative 3 times a negative 2 gives me a positive 6. This gives me 8x plus 20. Over here, I have to distribute that negative. I get 3x. That gives us negative 5x. This gives me a positive 23. Now I'm going to simplify the left side. The left, I can simplify that. That gives me 5x. 6 and 20 gives me 26. Over here, that gives me 5x plus 23. Now, again, you don't have to. I just find, especially on these problems here, on the identity, the all reals, and the no solution, if you'll move your numbers, or your letters, it's easier to tell which one's which. I just see a lot of mistakes when they don't move their letters first. That gives us 0. That gives us 0. So now on the left-hand side, we end up with 26. On the right-hand side, we end up with 23. This is not, these two things are not equal, okay? So this is where you end up with no solution. And I just abbreviate it like that. And that's it.